Earth's envoy stepped off the dropship onto Durson 9's scarred surface, a wild, red-soiled planet chosen for its hostile winds and jagged mesas. Captain Miriam Holt led the human delegation, a dozen Marines in matte black battle dress, boots dusty, jaws set. Behind them, silent as a shadow, walked Corporal Isaac Hayes, rifle case in one hand, expression unreadable under his worn boonie hat. Waiting to greet them were members of the Galactic Scout Corps, easily distinguished by their shimmering silver exoskins and arrogant posture. At their head stood Commander Krezel of the Yilf, a scaled, turquoise-skinned reptiloid with slitted eyes and a smirk too wide to be called polite. "Ah," Krezel hissed, spreading his arms. The Terrans arrive, carrying antiques. Human gear, ballistic vests, rugged packs, conventional rifles, looked almost primitive beside alien plasma carbines and rail pistols that hummed with power. The scouts whispered openly, tapping on their holoscreens to scan the humans' outdated metal weapons. Captain Holt offered a tight smile. "We appreciate the invitation to observe your joint exercise." "Observe?" Krezel chuckled. "Surely you mean participate." His long tail coiled with amusement. "Unless you fear these conditions. A deathworlder afraid of rough weather. That would be delicious irony." The Marines remained stone-faced. Only Hayes slightly shifted, as though checking the wind with the back of his neck. Holt glanced at him, received an almost invisible nod, and turned back. "We're happy to participate," she said. "Corporal Hayes will represent Earth Rifle Corps in your sniping evaluation." Several scouts scoffed. One, a lanky insectoid named Kill, leaned forward. "A single human versus our best marksman? With a slug thrower?" Krezel clacked his fangs in mock sympathy. "We should give him a head start. Perhaps 10 extra shots." Holt's voice never rose. "He'll only need one." The laughter echoed across the rocks. They marched across uneven terrain to a plateau overlooking a vast valley. Scouts had already set up high-tech weapon pods, sleek plasma rifles mounted on gyroscopic tripods. Targets, armored drones shaped like squat metal beetles, buzzed in zigzag patterns half a kilometer away. "Standard scout engagement range, 300 meters, explained Kill, tapping commands into a shimmering interface. A plasma round snapped from a rail launcher. The target exploded into molten shards. Aliens cheered. Hayes knelt, set his battered rifle case down, and clicked it open. Inside lay a bolt-action rifle, wood polished by weather and time, matte gray barrel scarred from use. Aliens craned their necks in disbelief. "That artifact is your weapon," one gasped. Hayes didn't answer. He unpacked small tools and began adjusting a scope, spinning turrets, checking levels, ignoring the voices around him. The wind kicked up dust. The sun glared against the glass in his scope. He didn't blink. Krezel stepped beside Captain Holt. "We have a proposal. For amusement, of course." "Of course," Holt said coolly. "We'll push a target to 3 kilometers. If your man hits it even once, we will acknowledge Earth's rifles have some merit. Fail, and you must admit your projectile toys belong in museums, not on the battlefield." Hayes heard everything but kept working, measuring gusts against the tip of his finger. Holt looked down at him. "Good with that, Corporal?" He gave a tiny, slow nod. "Yes, ma'am." Moments later, alien drones carried a fresh target far into the canyon until it was a speck barely visible to the naked eye. Scouts adjusted their visors in fascination. Some brought out snacks, preparing to enjoy the comedy. Hayes lay prone, resting his rifle on a canvas roll. He pulled the stock tight against his shoulder and breathed out long and slow. His finger brushed the trigger, not quite touching, as he let his heartbeat settle. "What's he waiting for?" Kill scoffed. "The wind to pity him," Hayes whispered to himself. 2-7 left, 4-point drop. He squeezed. The crack of the rifle was sharp, simple, and oddly honest. Nothing like the lightning snap of plasma. Most aliens didn't even realize he'd fired until smoke drifted from the barrel. For seconds passed. The target 3 kilometers away jerked, then folded inward, collapsing in a plume of dust and fire. Total silence. Hayes lifted his cheek from the rifle, ejected the smoking brass casing, and set it gently beside him. Captain Holt rested her hands behind her back. "Commander Krezel," she said politely, "shall we arrange for round 2? The scouts stared, wide-eyed, while the humans waited, quiet, untroubled. Nothing more terrifying than the enemy who doesn't need to boast. Shock rippled through the gathered aliens like a silent explosion. TLS mandibles hung open. Around him, Galactic scouts checked their targeting optics, trying to replay the moment of impact. None of their instruments had detected a firing solution, thermal spike, or projectile path. It was as if the human's bullet had materialized inside the target's core. Commander Krezel's tail twitched once, the only visible crack in his composure. "Begin recalibration," he ordered coldly. "We try again, under controlled trial conditions." Metallic drones lifted a new target and carried it deeper into the canyon. 3.2 kilometers. 3.5. Finally stopping at an absurd 4 kilometers away. Crosswinds that were nasty, reversing direction between mesas. Exactly the kind of chaos no mechanized sensor could correct for, but instinctive human snipers trained on Earth's death worlds could read like poetry. Hayes remained lying prone, face implacable, fingers slowly loading a fresh round. He didn't bother looking at the aliens scrambling around. He only watched the dancing dust devils sauntering across the rocky floor far below. Rilke, a young scout trainee with lavender skin, crouched beside her superior. "Commander, perhaps we should." Krezel silenced her with a glare sharp enough to cut bone. "Quiet. I will not be embarrassed by a primitive mammal with a stick." Captain Holt remained hands folded behind her back. "You set the range. You name the rules," she reminded him. "Indeed." Krezel turned to his crew. "Activate evasive mode. Make the target unpredictable. It will dodge randomly every half-second." Snickers rose among the scouts. Now, they could watch the Terran fail spectacularly in front of holocams. Hayes didn't react. Instead, he tapped tiny adjustments onto his scope, whispering to himself. He had no AI, no wind drones, no atmospheric predictor. He had only muscle memory, mathematics seared into instinct, and the calm heartbeat of a predator. The target began zigzagging. Aliens cheered. Hayes slowed his breathing. Breath in 2, 3 hold. Breath out 2, 3 hold. His heartbeat settled between each breath. The rifle stock nestled against his cheek like an old friend. Crack. This time, aliens were watching. They actually saw the rifle buck, heard the faint report echo against stone. They didn't see the bullet. 4.5 seconds later, the target twisted abruptly, metal punctured mid-dodge maneuver, secondary explosions rattling through its shell. It crashed, smoking, into the canyon floor. A chill spread across the scout corps. Rilke whispered. He predicted the target before it moved. Hayes calmly lifted his head and reached for a canteen. Captain Holt stepped forward. "Commander Krezel, do you require another demonstration?" The commander looked physically ill, but his pride was harder to kill than any drone. "We will," he rasped, "conduct a combat test. One where your sniper is challenge back." He flicked his talons. Scout engineers scrambled to assemble a trio of hunter drones, sleek crab-like machines armed with plasma repeaters capable of autonomous tracking. Around them, alien spectators drew in closer, sensing that blood might soon follow. "You accept," Krezel sneered, "that your sniper may be eliminated in this exercise?" Hayes capped his canteen and stood, giving a quiet nod. He spoke his first words of the day. "That's fair." Captain Holt eyed him. "Your call." Hayes slipped a magazine into his vest, chambered 3 more rounds, and flicked down his scope covers. "Ma'am," he said, "permission to hunt." Her lips twitched into the smallest smile. "Granted." An alarm blared. The combat test had begun. The hunter drones scuttled forward, spraying barges of blue plasma that carved trenches into rock. Hayes was already moving, rolling behind a jagged boulder as molten sand spat around him. He bolted across rough ground, rifle balanced in one hand like a dancer's partner. Alien officers cheered their machines. No soft target could outrun plasma. Hayes leapt behind a spire, dropped to a crouch, planted elbows, and fired without hesitation. Crack! One drone's sensor eye shattered. It tumbled, sparks flying as its guidance failed, and it smashed into the canyon wall. Plasma rounds roared back, forcing Hayes to dive flat as shards of shattered rock peppered his back. A second drone angled in, pincers glowing. Hayes rolled onto his side, sighted, and fired through a haze of dust. Crack! The bullet punched straight through the drone's power core. It erupted in a fountain of liquid flame. Only one left, smarter, hanging back, analyzing. Hayes dashed into the open. A deliberate mistake. The drone took the bait, scuttling out to flank. Crack! The bullet hit the ground in front of the drone and ricocheted upward into its throat port. It froze, emitted a confused electronic squeal, toppled, and burned. Silence. Even the wind seemed to have stopped, wary of drawing Hayes' attention. Finally, Commander Krezel spoke, voice faint. Enough. Captain Holt gave a respectful nod. Earth accepts your concession. As Hayes calmly gathered his shell casings, alien eyes followed him with a new, uneasy recognition. No longer as a barbarian, but as a predator. Word of the demonstration spread across Dursa, 9 faster than wildfire. Training officers from half a dozen Galactic Union forces swarmed the plateau, demanding scans, testimonies, sensor logs, anything to explain how a human firing 70-year-old technology had just outshot and outfought cutting-edge military platforms. Corporal Isaac Hayes ignored them. He cleaned his rifle on a flat section of sandstone, the routine as calm as brewing coffee. Bolt open, rag down the barrel, check the crown. Notes scratched on a weather-faded range card tucked into his sleeve. Beside him were 3 polished brass casings, trophies only a human would care to pick up. At the center of the gathering chaos, Commander Krezel paced like a caged animal. His expression had curdled from amusement to rage, and now settled at something much darker. Fear seen through the lens of ego. All recordings are inconclusive, he snarled as his aides updated him. Sensors picked nothing until contact. No energy trace. No detectable flight path. It breaks physics. Captain Holt stood nearby, arms folded in quiet satisfaction. It doesn't break physics. It uses physics, the way humans have for centuries. Krezel's tail lashed angrily. One man with a toy rifle proves nothing. We will conduct one final test, a real test. No tricks, no theatrics. A live-fire duel against one of our command snipers, Scout Captain Xerix, decorated war veteran of 16 campaigns. The crowd muttered approval. Xerix was notorious even among aliens. A 4-armed, chitin-plated tactician whose plasma rifle could tag a target the instant it appeared. In the distance, Holt asked, eyes flicking from Krezel to Xerix. 2 kilometers, Krezel hissed. Both shooters deploy at opposite ends of the canyon. No support. First confirmed, kill wins. Holt turned to Hayes. Your call. Hayes closed the bolt on his rifle, checked the chamber, and stood up. I'll go set up, he said, like someone commenting on the weather. The canyon stretched wide, wind slicing unpredictably between its jagged edges. Xerix took the south rim, deploying with advanced thermal cloaks, drones, and an ammo pack that buzzed with blue plasma cells. Hayes ascended to the north rim with nothing but spare magazines, his rifle, and a small folded tarp to lie on. His heartbeat slowed automatically as he went prone. The sand pressed cool and gritty against his cheek. He stared through his scope, scanning layers of stone formations with patient, predatory resolve. Countdown began. At 0, both shooters vanished into stillness. Xerix's tech hummed softly as targeting lenses tracked for heat signatures. Hayes breathed, moving slow as a glacier. A minute passed, 3-5. Xerix, confident humans lack stealth systems, made the first move, inching into a ridge fold. Hayes watched him through a gap in rock, dialing his scope 2 clicks left. The range, exactly 1,936 meters. He factored wind drift with almost lazy precision. Crack! Xerix reacted fast, rolling instinctively. The bullet whined off stone, punching a crater inches from his head. Before it finished ringing, plasma bolts shot back in blinding salvos, carving gouges into Hayes' hillside. Hayes was already sliding back, every movement smooth and disciplined, the calm of someone who had done this 100 times in worse places. Xerix changed elevation, using a rock outcrop for concealment. Hayes continued to backpedal on elbows and knees. He wasn't retreating, he was shaping the hunt. Hayes shifted to a side draw he'd noted earlier, an angle Xerix's drones weren't scanning. He propped a rifle and waited. 30 seconds later, Xerix crossed into a narrow saddle. Hayes pressed his cheek to the stock. Crack! The bullet hit Xerix's right upper arm joint. The scout captain screamed, dropping his rifle in shock. In Union warfare, a hit was defeat, but Hayes didn't fire again. He just watched through his scope as Xerix spasmed. Plasma weapon forgotten. He's marked. Hayes said over comms, voice quiet. Match concluded. A stunned hush flowed through the watchers. Captain Holt stepped forward with a diplomatic nod. Commander Krezel, do you accept? Krezel could barely swallow. But he wasn't a fool, not now. I concede. Hayes descended slowly, rifle slung over his shoulder. As he passed Xerix's med-evac unit, the alien captain stared up in disbelief. Hayes paused, offering a respectful nod. No shame in losing, he said quietly. Physics is an unforgiving teacher. Xerix blinked, then gave the smallest nod in return. The news feeds had already exploded. Human sniper wins duel. Ballistic weapons outclass plasma at range. Earth's rifle corps. Hidden superiority exposed. Krezel watched the humans regroup with something between dread and calculation. Earth had just cracked open a door the Galactic Union thought was locked, and on the other side stood predators. Within 16 hours, the exercise plateau on Dursa 9 became the center of an interstellar storm. Shuttle after shuttle landed as delegates, scientists, and ranking officers from across the Galactic Union scrambled for a first-hand look at humanity's miracle rifle. Many arrived expecting explanation. More arrived out of fear. Captain Holt fielded questions with a diplomat's calm, but offered few answers. Earth weapons doctrine is mission-focused, she repeated. Sniping is a craft, not a technology you plug into a software suite. Commander Krezel, now pale beneath his turquoise scales, had retreated behind a wall of brass and protocol. He authorized a formal apology to be drafted, the first ever from the Scout Corps to a newcomer species. Nobody could remember that ever happening before. Corporal Isaac Hayes, meanwhile, sat on a metal ammo crate sipping coffee from a battered tin mug, seemingly unconcerned by the whirlwind around him. His rifle lay clean and oiled across his lap, fidelity between man and weapon radiating like a quiet storm. Alien officers gave him a wide berth, almost superstitiously so. Only one approached. Rilke, the young scout trainee, stepped forward clasping her hands behind her back. Her lavender skin was flushed a deeper hue in embarrassment. Corporal, she said, voice soft, on behalf of the trainee ranks, I wish to apologize for our disrespect earlier. We mocked what we did not understand. Hayes lifted his eyes. He seemed, for the first time, almost amused. We've all done that before. Don't worry about it. She looked at his rifle. Would it be possible one day to learn how you see, how to read the wind like that? Hayes gave a small shrug. Anyone can learn. Most just don't want to put in the hours. Rilke glanced back at the senior officers still debating in circles. Holographic charts flying through the air while egos screamed quietly inside helmets. I do, she said simply. Hayes nodded once. Then you're already a step ahead. Inside the Galactic Union Council chamber off-world, an emergency session flared to life. Earth has deployed a weapon capable of bypassing our armor and sensors, barked a high-ranking diplomat from the Thorl Empire. This represents a threat to galactic security. Others fired back. The Caxori historians pointed out humans did nothing unprovoked. The Heckin merchants whispered about investment opportunities in human manufacturing. One question cut through all the noise. Should Earth's ballistic technology be banned or adopted? Back on Dursa 9, Captain Holt had anticipated the chaos. She contacted an Earth fleet transport waiting in orbit. Recall order approved, came the voice on the other end. Pack up your people. The council will act soon. She ended the call and turned to Hayes. Good work, Corporal. Pack up. We're wheels up in 30. Hayes stood, slinging his rifle. Yes, ma'am. As they walked toward the landing zone, they passed Commander Krezel one last time. The proud Yilf was sullen, no longer mocking, no longer capable of it. Holt paused beside him. You mocked us because you didn't understand us, she said quietly. We bear you no ill will. But learn this lesson well. Humans do not bluff. Krezel looked away first. That night, Hayes watched the stars through a viewport on the ascending transport. The rifle rested by his side. He wasn't thinking of politics. He was thinking of wind and dust and distance, the simple clarity of a shot well made. News reports continued pouring across galactic networks, showing slow-motion breakdowns of Hayes's impossible kills. Commentators spoke in hushed tones now, no longer laughing. Military analysts began calculating reaction times. Engineers requested samples of Earth rifles for study. Hayes smirked at that. They didn't understand. The magic wasn't in the weapon. It was in the hands behind it. As the Earth ship entered hyperspace, Holt stepped next to him. You know what comes next, Hayes? She asked. He shrugged. Folks will try to copy what they saw. That's right, she said, eyes gleaming. And most will fail. Meanwhile, Earth just earned more deterrence from 3 bullets than from an entire fleet. She patted his shoulder. Rest up. Brass wants you training a new sniper division when we get home. Hayes nodded, settling back in his seat, rifle at his side like a loyal dog. Behind him, across half the galaxy, alien war colleges updated doctrine notes. Defensive shield manufacturers held emergency meetings. Scouts practiced holding their breath while firing. And somewhere on a fringe world, a young trainee named Rilko whispered to herself, one day, I will see wind like a human sniper does. Because across the Galactic Union, one truth had taken root. Permanent, undeniable. They had laughed at Earth's rifles. Now, they braced for the day when more triggers would be pulled.